Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Happy Father's Day to every daddy out there. I am Matt. Welcome to Cheap Seat Book, and I am sitting here with a couple of my favorite fathers, Cruise veterans. Welcome back for his second time on the show. You remember him from our WrestleMania preview episode from out in Las Vegas, standing at 5'24". We have Ken Johansson joining us. Ken, how you doing?
Great. How's it going? Happy Father's Day.
Thank you, sir. And from North Carolina, by way of the Massachusetts area, you know him from Cruising with Kayfabe. It is the always on the ball Mongo. What's going on, buddy?
What's going on? Happy Father's Day to both you gentlemen. Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Oh, absolutely. I just figured it's Father's Day. We're big wrestling fans. What better to kick off our day? Oh, I guess it's about noon your time out there, but some of us live on the correct side of the country. let's sit around and talk wrestling for a little while. Not everybody is beneficial. Like you guys out on the East Coast, you have this 8 p.m. start for so many shows, and it sucks. We're out here, we're like 5 o'clock. Absolutely, let's do this. It doesn't interfere with much in our lives other than making sure we're home from work on time. So I want to talk about parenting in wrestling. And I don't mean the kind of parenting we read about in books where they're like, oops, I fucked that one up. I mean these legacy talents. The father came in. The father was a legend. The father may or may not have left the business due to whatever circumstances are out there, but the next generation arises. You know what? Let's just hit off with the big one. And I think it's very interesting because we had the High Chief Peter Maivia to start this family legacy. He was involved. He is a smaller branch of another larger tree that I'm sure we will get to down the road. But arguably, the biggest success story from a son in pro wrestling. Now, the High Chief had a daughter. That daughter married Rocky Johnson. Rocky Johnson, not the best necessarily reputation as a decision maker. If you've seen young Rock, you know that he may have made some poor calls in his career about how to handle it, but he didn't make a poor call when he fathered Dwayne the Rock Johnson. This kid came out of the Canadian Football League, if you can believe that, up there in Calgary on the practice squad. Did not really capitalize on his football dreams. Came in, rough gimmick to start off. Rocky Maivia was all the talent was on display, but the charisma was deeply, deeply hidden under whatever kid and play haircut he had and bizarre Islander style outfit, through an attitude, through an eyebrow, dropped an elbow. I mean, the story, we all know the story, really. Is there any bigger success story from a son? Because he's now on the board of TKO. This is not just, hey, I became a world champion and, my dad was a tag champion like my dad and I was a world champion like my grandfather in the territories. But no, he's on the board now. One of the biggest movie stars in Hollywood. I hear talk about him getting an Oscar in the year 2173 for a Lifetime Achievement Award. I don't think he's going to get it for his acting chops. But as far as professional wrestling goes, is there a bigger success story to you guys?
If I had to say, is there a bigger success story? If you're going to go by dollars and cents, no. But if you're going to go by accomplishments of the father and accomplishments of the child, and the reason I say child is because I'm not going son.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm not going son, you probably know where I'm going. We're saying Ric Flair and Charlotte.
Yeah. I would agree. I mean, Charlotte's had a lot really, really quickly. I think, is she a 16-time holder? Mongo, do you know that?
14? I want to say 14.
So, I mean, it's quick. Close. It's a bit hot potato, but I mean, Charlotte, to me, I think Charlotte's better than Rick, bell to bell. That's just me, though. I was never a huge Ric Flair guy. Maybe I came to the party late. Maybe I missed, him in his prime. I'll woo with anybody, but yeah, I got to admit, Charlotte's a good pick for that. It's Mongo, how you feeling about that?
I mean, as much as I don't like the person inside and outside of the ring, I mean, Vince Jr., as much as he's being called Junior, I mean, his dad starting WWF, and then him kind of finding out who his dad is later, realizing he's a man, getting a loan to buy into the company, turning it into a global empire. I think that, I mean, I know he's not like a performer, like full-time performer, but I think that's a pretty powerful father-son dynamic because he got that foot in the business and it changed wrestling worldwide. So, I mean, as much as I don't like VKM personally, obviously based on everything you know about him, that one to me is hard to not deny. But from a wrestling standpoint, I definitely agree with Charlotte. But I'm going to throw out kind of a more modern one. I think that Dominic Mysterio is starting to kind of really shine from his roots. You have Rey Mysterio, who's one of the best lucha wrestlers of all time. And now Dominic, who's just turned into one of this great character actors that does his role well, that could really evolve into, you know, a steady role player, could really evolve into something. So I think that's another one that we kind of keep an eye out. So that's like my little future one that I think will probably eventually be a world champion. I'll put that out there. I think Dirty Dom will be a world champion one day.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're seeing a lot of character development with Dom that we weren't seeing in his early run when he was, you know, tag champs with his dad. I think he got a lot of heat just because everybody's like, who is this? But he's got the pedigree behind him. I mean, this is a Lance Storm trained guy. He's gone out and he's done stuff, and they said, okay, we'll throw him in the Judgment Day. We're going to give him a personality. Boy, howdy did that take off.
Yeah.
I think he might be the Intercontinental Champion with a title, but I think he's the women's champion as the prize. Like, he's
sure he's not complaining.
I mean, we'll get into talking about this guy a little bit down the line, but I mean, everybody was thinking David Flair won the friggin' lottery back in the day, but I think Dom's doing pretty well for himself. And I don't think we've seen the best of Dom yet. As far as his in-ring work goes, because they are relying on personality. That's a hard one to deny, especially since they are leaning into that old storyline so heavy of Dom's not Ray's kid. He's doing a fantastic Eddie Guerrero impression. That may be the best long-term storytelling of all time. I mean, let's face it, we were looking at 12-year-old Dominic as the prize for a ladder match. So I guess he's not, I guess he's used to being a prize, really. I mean, there you go. It's Dom on a ladder. I mean, we've seen it before with Judy Bagwell on a forklift. Why not? Let's just that's a whole thing. Jamal, what's going on? Thanks for tagging in, buddy. You've been out there giving all sorts of Father's Day messages today. Appreciate you. Feel free to jump in. Tell us what you are thinking as far as these father-son duos are going. And we mentioned that Ric Flair's had 3 kids try the professional wrestling out of 4. Arguably, his 4th kid is doing quite well, being adjacent to professional wrestling, being married to the Podfather. I believe they call him Conrad Thompson, who does all the Starcasts. Has his own ad-free shows network, and if you're a big name in wrestling, you probably have a podcast with Conrad. So Megan Fleer is doing quite well. David came in hot. I think David's one of those. David and Charlotte are a cool example of not all kids are meant to succeed in the ring. David, it was painful to watch sometimes in the end of WCW, seeing David Flair, but he was out there. He got his foot in the door. He had a decent entrance to it. He just was not meant for it as much as Charlotte was. And I think that's something that gets highlighted more so than the success stories of the Rocks and the Randy Ortons and the Dominic Mysterios. Like, oh, it's the promoter's kid. It's this talent's kid. And we're used to seeing guys like Scott Putski not quite make it, like his dad, Ivan did.
Or David Sammartino.
Oh, I mean, there we go. Yep.
You want to talk about not making it? Someone I thought would be something was, you know, Joe Hennig, aka Michael McGillicuddy, Curtis Axel, whatever you want to call him in WWE. Kurt Hennig's son, Mr. Perfect's son. He had the look, he had the chops, and then just he cut one bad promo, and just Vince lost trust in him, and he just never regained that momentum. Like he had that awkward, clunky promo, and you didn't see much from him, but he had the look. You know, Paul Heyman had interest in him. It just some people just they have the chops. It just doesn't click. And I agree. I think some people just don't click.
Yeah, let's talk about Joe, because Joe's an interesting case. Joe, he had it all. I think the Curtis Axel name was just hot garbage, and I get it. It's a tribute to dad and grandfather. Larry the Axe Hennig down to Kurt Hennig, both badasses. I don't think Joe got a fair shot, but like you said, his promo skills weren't great. They threw him with Paul Heyman. He was with the Miz as well, wasn't he?
For a hot minute, yeah.
And Bo Dallas, who we will also get into.
Yeah, they were the B team.
That's right, the B team. And it didn't, he got his little run with the title. I don't know if we saw what he was truly capable of, because he would disappear for months at a time, especially around WrestleMania 27, 28, because he was off helping The Rock train. He was the guy that WWE would send to help, people coming back from injuries, or guys like The Rock who are coming in to train. And I don't think he got a fair shake, and I don't really know what happened to him. Did either of you?
I think they pretty much released him, I think, after the B team kind of fizzled out, and they kind of, the old cliche, sat in catering, and I think his contract either ran up or they just released him. And I've heard he pops up on the indies from now and then, but I haven't seen him any indies around here, but I've heard that he'll do some local shows. I think he did a couple shows out in Portland for Defy recently.
Oh, really? Well, it's not too far from me. I hadn't seen that yet. But I mean, I don't see everything. Honestly, there are days where I've watched so much wrestling. I need a break, and then I get a backlog, or I'm just like, Raw's telling me they're going to do this tonight. Yeah, I'll get to it later. And then something pops up, and I got to catch up on it, because I got this weird completionist thing. I can't just skip an episode. I get twitchy about it, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
I need to know what happened in that one. In the Netflix era. Yeah. Ken, what are you thinking here? You got any could-have-beens off the top of your head now that we're talking about Mr. Hennig?
Any could-have-beens? Well, I could think of two different sets of brothers that one definitely achieved better success than the other.
Mm-hmm.
And one would be Randy Orton, and wasn't Barry O his brother? Or was that his uncle?
No, that was Barry O, I think, was oh Jesus, Bob Orton's brother.
Okay, Bob Orton's brother. So then Bob Orton and Barry O.
Yeah.
And then Bo Dallas and Bray Wyatt.
Yeah. Yeah, you got your Fiend going on, absolutely. Yeah, I mean the son of Mike Rotunda. Wow, that's what could have been with Bray. I mean, Bray was huge. Let's be honest, he was huge based on his character. I never really found his bell to be super spectacular, but I think they were leaning into that, looking for the next Undertaker. Which, okay, sure. And now we have we got Wyndham doing it, Bo Dallas doing it. It's Wyndham was was Bray. We have Bo Dallas doing it, and for some reason I'm blanking on his birth certificate name, but it doesn't really matter. And that seems to be stop and start right now with the Wyatt 6. I think it's an interesting concept. I mean, it's a tribute to Bray.
Yeah.
I think we're all waiting for Alexa Bliss to really break into that one. But I think Bo is doing a great job of doing the Uncle Howdy character. How do you guys feel about that? Like, he came out of NXT hot. He was one of the first NXT champions. He had a big thing going. His Bo Leave gimmick kind of died on the vine. We've seen that a lot with NXT. You come out of there, and what was successful there was maybe not playing so well to that notorious army or audience of one they have to cater to in those days.
Right.
That being the almighty Vincent Kennedy McMahon himself, or it could have been, he was being torpedoed by somebody. We won't know till he writes his book, really. That's just the way it's going to be. We'll have to wait until somebody writes the tell-all. What do you guys feel of Bo filling these shoes? Mongo?
I mean, I like it. I think it's a touching tribute, like that documentary they did on Peacock after Ray's passing, with Bo giving the eulogy and kind of talking about how he wanted to continue the Uncle Howdy character, working with the mask maker, and knowing his brother's mindset and how his love of horror films. I think it's a touching tribute. I agree. I think they need to give it more love, because the stop and start, especially with today's ADHD world's audience attention, it's not good. Like, if you're not on screen for a couple weeks, people are going to forget about you. But to kind of go back to your NXT point, I was a big NXT, especially Black and Gold and NXT 2014-15 fan. I think the big issue is they got over with people who went every week because it was at Full Sail. So you had people who the same crowds would go week after week after week. So they'd be over with those 300-400 people that were, consistently going. But then it's hard to engage, or it's hard to connect with the different audience, like you said, when you had the audience of one. So, you're used to connecting with those 400 people, but then you go on Raw in Milwaukee with 10,000 people who've never seen you before, and you're like, what are you, DDP? Like, why are you doing the smiling gimmick? Like, you're going to teach me yoga like DDP did back in the day. And I think it's hard because they almost have to tweak their characters. And again, like you said, if a certain person didn't like it, it didn't get over. But I think Bo never really got a fair shake. He, I think, was the better one in the ring, but I think Bray had the better character work. I always wanted to see them team up, and I wish that's kind of my never wish I could have seen is Bro and Uncle Howdy and the new version of the Fiend team up before he passed. That would have been so cool, because I think if Bray was still with us, this would be next level, because his mind was brilliant, and I think Bo's doing the best he can. But I think give him a shot. I like the Uncle Howdy gimmick. I like the aesthetic of it. It's the character wrestling, because that's what WWE is. It's character wrestling.
Ken?
Yeah. I just think it's that, like, I love the gimmick that they do. I just think it's kind of hard to, make them out to be these, like, these nearly invincible characters. But then, when they get in the ring, they're just, like I've heard before, when they get in the ring and the bell rings, then what are they? They're just wrestlers, and, they're, it's so cool to look at and all that. Like, there's lots of bottles in the liquor store that I go and I'm like, oh my God, look at that bottle. But then the liquor inside of it tastes like ass. So,
That's great.
It's a matter of, it's great. I love it. Don't get me wrong. But, then when they get in the ring, it's almost like, oh, kind of one of those things. You got to be
the whole package.
The whole package. And I'm not saying that some of these people aren't really good wrestlers. Like, when, I know Dexter Lumis is one of the guys in the group. I loved his, I hated him as Sam Shaw in TNA, but I loved him when he was in NXT.
Yeah. I got to agree. He was one of those guys that came along. That group composition is a bit wonky, because Bo came up originally as NXT wasn't as widely and easily available. So that myth of NXT talent not being known, right in the heyday of the Black and Gold, which Jamal says he misses as well. I think most NXT fans miss the Black and Gold era. But before that, it was an internet show. Like, we really didn't know who Seth Rollins, Dean Ambrose, Bo Dallas, Roman Reigns, and the guys coming up at a certain point were. NXT got new life when the network was born. It was more widely available. It was I have the network now, so I can watch it. And that's really when, they're starting to get TV deals. And so that transition wasn't as difficult for some of the guys like your Finn Balor's and your Samoa Joes and your Kevin Owens and your Sami Zayn, your Revival, all coming up, because they did have that groundwork laid out in front of them. Now, we were a year behind up in Canada getting the network. We didn't get it at WrestleMania 30. We got it for WrestleMania 31. So for me, if you're on NXT, I had no idea who you were. Not a clue. And then now I think since they went to tie-dye NXT, I almost said it's like the talent level drop, which is not true. These are still very talented kids, but I think it was more you realized you were watching a wrestling school show. You weren't seeing guys like Roddy Strong and Samoa Joe and Finn Balor and Shinsuke Nakamura and all these guys coming through. It was strictly performance center people. You might get the odd one coming through that is, had a name from a TNA or, Japan or Mexico, but it wasn't there. And for me, that's where I was like, I have no idea what this kid is. I didn't know who he was. I had to look him up on the internet, I was like, oh, Mike Rotunda's son, Husky Harris's brother. That's weird.
Husky Harris.
Husky Harris. And for those of you who are going, Husky Harris, that sounds familiar. You got to look up the second
Nexus.
the second incarnation of the Nexus. And Husky Harris is Wyndham Rotunda, aka Bray Wyatt. And boy, howdy, am I glad that he turned that around. Happy Father's Day to you too as well, Robert. Thanks for joining us. Jamal here is saying you had a good mixture of established indie wrestlers along with newcomers. I agree, and that's where you get these guys like the Performance Center people mixing it with guys like Samoa Joe, like Finn Balor, like these guys that have I don't want to say territory hopped, because it's not the same anymore. It's not the territories, but they
grinded on the indies.
They're grinding on the indies. They're doing the overseas tours. They're in Japan. They're in Europe. They're in Mexico. They're out there doing it. They're hitting on the internet. They're doing big things. And then, you know what? We'll get into the NXT AEW war at some point down the line, because I got some thoughts on that, and I don't want to get too terribly off track. Let's talk about another dynasty. And I'm Canadian, so you know where I'm going. If you don't, you can try and read my hat. Hart Dynasty. Not the actual tag team.
I was going to say, don't stew on it.
You know what? I mean, maybe I've been kicked in the head, but I got to say that the Hart Dynasty, as a family, not as a tag team, because that was just unfortunate, they've produced a lot of really badasses. Stu Hart was a notorious badass, even as an old man trainer. All you have to do is find any interview with anybody that spent any time in the Hart Dungeon, and you will hear say, oh yeah, no, if Stu offers to show you a hold, don't fucking do it. Because he is going to make you scream and curse and think your life is ending, and you're probably going to need a new pair of drawers.
In the Jericho book, A Lion's Tale, my favorite story about Stu Hart is he's talking about going up there. And he's like, the first time I go in there, he's like, you walk in, you think you're in a haunted house, because you're just hearing these screams coming from the basement. And, you're trying to act big and tough, and I'm good. And I go down there, and Stu's like, I'm going to stretch you. And he goes, okay. And he goes, son of a bitch, I've never been in more pain in my life. But it was just that's all I could visualize. She's walking into the house, like a nice, beautiful house. And you're hearing people scream. And it makes me think of that movie, Ready to Rumble. And I think that was the character, Sal Bandini, Want to Wrestle. Yep. I think
exactly
that's a character
who they copied it off of.
It's like people coming out and they're all bandaged up.
I have no shame in saying that I own a copy of that movie on DVD, and I have watched the director's cut, and Sal Bandini was based off of Stu Hart.
Oh yeah, I was going to say,
you go back. For those of us that have seen Wrestling with Shadows, Bret Hart had that scene where he has this weird Halloween prop of a guy in an electric chair in his house, or at least he did back then. This is, again, we're going back to like 97, 98 when this movie came out. And he's like, this just reminds me of learning to wrestle with my dad. It was just torture. He plays a clip of Bret had recorded outside the window of the dungeon, and all you just hear is grown men screaming and crying. Now, that all being said, Stu had his legacy. We have all seen the clip of a very young, poofy hair Bret Hart saying that his dad's going to be his partner for an episode of Stampede Wrestling. Say what you want, Stu's method seems to have worked. He produced some badass wrestlers out of his family tree. I mean, we have Bret Hart,
even friends of his family.
Oh yeah, we're gonna run this tree down, son. Let me tell you, all of his sons were in there to a certain degree. Some better than others, some with better attitudes than others. I think the Hart brothers' attitude problems are well documented. And Bret, world champion, Owen, arguably, and I believe it personally, the best wrestler of the bunch. the best wrestler because he could also do that entertaining comedy stuff. Bret was not as good as the comedy stuff. Owen,
Complete
rest in
package,
peace,
like we were
gone
saying
too
earlier.
soon. What's that?
So we were talking earlier, Ken was saying about, how and then the bell rang and then kind of disappeared. But Owen Hart was the example of, when the bell rang and he proved you right, because he just wanted Owen Hart would go in there and put on a bell to bell. I mean, I still remember the "I'm not a nugget," like him just just over the top. I love Owen. I actually liked Owen better than Bret, and it's not that I didn't love Bret. I preferred Owen over Bret because he made me want to watch him wrestle. When he won the Slammies and everything, he made me want to tune in.
Yeah, and we know it now. He was messing with people on camera so much. That little sneaky thing he'd do with the bulldog. When the bulldog would come out, hit the double by, and Owen would pop up in front of him with the. I'm like, oh, that's a cool entrance. Like, no, he was fucking with the bulldog the entire time. And this is what would come out that we would hear. We would read it in Mick Foley's books. Like all these little things Owen would do in the ring. He was trying to pop the boys. He was being entertaining for the crowd. I believe it was him and Mick Foley were beating each other with popcorn bags, and they were both selling it like they were being hit with shotguns. Owen let that bit. He was a master of letting little bits of his personality out. And if the WrestleMania 10 ladder match had not been on the card, him and Bret would have been the best match and most talked about match of that show. Unfortunately, it's on the card with the ladder match, and it's a dead heat tie as far as I'm concerned.
Still the best brother versus brother WrestleMania match that I've seen. I mean, you've had a lot of them, but it's still the best one.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad you said WrestleMania match, because there's another brother versus brother match that is very near and dear to my heart. And when you said best brother versus brother match, I was almost, and then you said WrestleMania, so I was like, okay.
Yeah. Right.
I wanted to put the qualifier on it.
I want to come back and hear what the brother versus brother match is, but Jamal here is saying that taking a stretch from Stu Hart, a badge of honor. I could definitely see that. I've been stretched by Stu Hart. What the fuck are you gonna do to me? Stu got me. Bring it. Like, you got nothing. I've taken one from Stu. I am the guy on the tape. And then we get into the third generation. I mean, Bret and Owen's kids never got into it. However, Jim Neidhart and his daughter Natty is fantastic. Natty is, again, like
still reinventing herself.
Yeah, like Curtis Axel, incredibly underrated, very talented, out there training people. Unlike Curtis Axel, multi-time champion, highly respected. Every time I see Natty on screen, I'm thinking she's probably going to lose, but this girl in the ring with her is going to have the best match. Thoughts on Natty, guys?
I have one thought that comes to mind immediately.
Mm-hmm.
There was one gimmick they did with her that I think doomed her to this day.
Mongo's agreeing with you already, and I'm thinking, yep, keep going.
When she always used to come out with Beth Phoenix, and they do their promo or interview or whatever, and then Natty farted.
Yep.
Oh.
Yep.
And that is all Vince McMahon. We all know it.
Mm-hmm.
It's the dumbest shit. Some of the dumbest shit he's ever done.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be honest with you, I, to this day, don't think it's something that, as any fan that was around then, when she comes out, it can't be something that doesn't, like, just automatically hit their brain when they see her. Because I know it does to me. And I think she's great.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, I mean,
that was one thing that they could have definitely not done to her.
Yeah, I mean, Jamal is on board, big Natty fan as well. I think if you're a fan of Bell to Bell Wrestling, you can't not enjoy Natty. And like I said, if she's in the ring, there's a lesson coming for whoever's in there.
She got a good match out of Ronda. That's saying something. She got a good match out of Ronda Rousey.
And let's not forget, she's almost 15 years in the WWE at this point. That is saying something. But yeah, Ken's exactly right. VKM had a bad habit of embarrassing the ladies, especially the talented ones. I mean, Piggy James, are you fucking kidding me?
Trish barking like a dog.
Trish barking like a dog. I mean, Trish was able to get around that somehow. You know, there's no reason for it. There's no
Jillian
reason
Hall, the
to.
face that, like, I feel like you could do a whole episode just on his humiliation rituals because he was a sick fuck.
Oh yeah, absolutely. His sense of humor was cruel at some stage, but yes, VKM humiliation is definitely something we could spend over an hour talking on. We could
Oh my
probably get an
God.
hour just out of Jim Ross.
Yeah.
Right. All right, Ken, you had a point about some brother versus brother stuff going on here. Actually, before we get that, and then we have the Hart Foundation's probably biggest, or the Hart family tree's biggest, could have been Teddy Hart, whose attitude is bizarre in the ring and out of the ring. I believe he's in jail. Is that?
I think he should lose the Hart name. He's not a true Hart.
Yeah. I mean, he's yeah. I can't remember it. I know TJ Wilson was a family friend and is married into the family. A big tragedy there, losing his neck stability. I thought he had a good shot at being the next top guy to come out of the Hart fight, but Ted had all the ability. I think his mom is an actual Hart. I'm gonna have to look that up on the internet here, but I mean, what an absolute waste. I'm gonna look up Ted, see what he's got going on. But I heard there was some criminal charges that actually stuck this time.
Not
I
surprising.
I know the brother versus brother match kind of talking about. Did it happen in Vegas, Ken? Because that's the match I agree with you on.
Yeah, let's get to this brother versus brother.
It did happen in Las Vegas, as a matter of fact. It happened at an inaugural pay-per-view that for the first time this year was held in Arizona. Thank you, Tony Khan. Yes, at Double or Nothing. The very first one had Cody versus Dustin. And that match was incredible.
The sons of a son of a plumber.
Yeah,
like we're gonna get to the Rhodes boys, but oh my God, was that match amazing?
It was, and to be there live for it was spectacular. I mean, you know, I think back to that card, and you know, that card actually took place before AEW officially became like AEW and had like the TV show and all that. But I mean, it was an absolute stellar card. In fact, I remember just the sea of people trying to get in. It was such a clusterfuck trying to get into the place that they had a battle royal as the first match, and we finally got in, and we had been there like at least an hour before bell time, and we didn't get in there until like the last couple participants of the battle royal, you know, so we missed pretty much most of the battle royal. It was, but as far as like a first wrestling card for them, I know All In was amazing, the very first All In, which led to Double or Nothing, which led to AEW. But my God, what a wrestling card! That brother versus brother match was just outstanding.
And these guys are some. I mean, their father is one of the more massive success stories across the board. I mean, multi-time world champion, huge draw, a guy that is credited for booking some of the high points of not just WCW, but Jim Crockett Promotions. He took a rib from Vince McMahon and made it work.
Right.
I mean, Vince's shitty sense of humor is like, I'm going to put him in polka dots. And I don't give a shit what Bruce Pritchard says. That was Vince's fucking humor.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not as cruel as, you know, Piggy James or Farting Natty, and Dusty's like, you know what? I put me in whatever you want. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to be Dusty Rhodes, baby. And he's going to do what he does. And, you know, there's a huge age gap between the two boys. Well over a decade, I believe. I mean, I remember seeing Dustin come out in the Survivor Series with Dusty back in the day before they both left the company. We had the natural Dustin Rhodes. He was probably the first guy I realized was a legacy talent. And it was when he was green, he was green. There's no way of saying it. But, you know, he did his stuff in WCW. Because I'm up in Canada, I didn't get to see a lot of it. Very rarely did it make TV on the west coast of Canada. Great success, great learning period in WCW. came over to WWE and blew everybody's minds with Goldust to the point
Yeah.
where even the talent backstage was uncomfortable working with him. There's the story of Scott Hall going, I am not doing
when he had the
I'm not
tattoo.
doing the Goldust. I'm not doing the Goldust thing. I'm not selling for it. But it led to the parking lot brawl with Roddy Piper.
Amazing. The Hollywood backlap
Right.
brawl with the OJ Simpson chase and everything.
Footage and the Bronco that Vince let Piper keep. For those of you who don't know it, the white Bronco in that became, and Piper apparently was driving it till the day he died. I mean, that
Oh,
still
wow.
exists somewhere. But I mean, he committed to the gimmick so hard, it made people like Scott Hall uncomfortable. Scott wasn't the only one, but he's probably the most notorious one. It cost Scott his last WrestleMania opportunity for years. He could have had a WrestleMania 12 match with Goldust, with Dustin. Instead, he was not on the card. We didn't really see too much of him again until he popped up in WCW. One of the rare examples of maybe he pissed off Vince a little much, and Vince like, you know what, you're leaving. I'm not really going to feature you too much. I mean, you can mess around with your buddies in the clique, but I mean that if you're not going to work with a guy, and credit to everybody that did, like Savio Vega, the stuff he sold for Dustin was brilliant. Dustin coming out, it stripped down in that match. There's lingerie on. I mean, this is a big 6'4", 6'5" redneck Texan. If you've seen any of his outside of the ring stuff, he is just a good old boy from Texas, and he committed to it. Just like his dad committed to the polka dots, he committed to it. Legendary character, arguably the first Attitude Era character they had that was pushing buttons hard when society was not ready to be as accepting to the rainbow flag as, I mean, it was right at the beginning of us as a society going, yeah, okay, whatever, love who you want. But it was still rough back then. We're talking mid 90s.
He elevated Triple H. I mean, he took Triple H from, just kind of getting that weird French like aristocrat gimmick Triple H, and then that feud with Goldust. He's starting to lean in more of his DX and him dressing up like Goldust and the Fireball and just everything about that feud. So I think the best part of Goldust, he elevated the people he worked with. And even though he had a silly gimmick, him and R-Truth, and they had, the Golden Truth, or when you had Goldust and Booker T,
thank you.
The magic, like all the different teams he worked with, his stuttering gimmick when he got electrocuted, he is the perfect example of someone who took shit and made it shine.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that he's now getting his flowers, realizing how good he is in the ring and how good his character work. And I think that's why he chose to stay with AEW, because he did Goldust. He doesn't want to go back and rehash it. He wants to go out as serious work. How R-Truth came back as Ron Killings. I think they want to go out with, listen, I can do my character work, but I want to show you that I'm damn good in this ring too. I'm going to coach the people of the future.
I mean, it's much like The Undertaker, who, for that last match in AJ Styles in his career, is like, it's not full Supernatural. It's a bit of the Supernatural Undertaker. It's a bit of the Biker Undertaker. And Dustin's done that as well. He's merged it together. He's had his issues outside of the ring, well documented. He's kicked out of it. He's, a fantastic coach by all accounts that I've ever seen. I've never seen anybody say, oh, God, you got to work with Dustin. He's player coaching at a tremendous level to this day. You put him on AEW TV, we're interested. But let's get to the other brother in this equation, because there's a comment I want to get up here. Cody came in, same thing. He was very much paralleling his brother. It was sort of it's Dusty's kid. He's put with two other legacy talents in Legacy. He's got Randy Orton at the head. He's got the son of the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase Jr., with him. And Cody has come out with flying colors. It wasn't the best gimmick. Cody would go on to do Dashing Cody Rhodes. I mean, he was really struggling to find his footing. And then we had the unfortunate, and I don't know how it came about, really, Stardust. And I do know that Dusty Rhodes would call himself, I'm Stardust, baby. It was bring a little Stardust on you. I don't know how my Dusty impression is, but everybody has one. So he kind of struggled, and then the Stardust is the one that stuck. Unfortunately, it stuck him in a certain spot on the card. Cody decides eventually, fuck this, I'm out. I can do better. Okay, go give it a shot. I was skeptical, but he became one of the biggest stars in the world on his own. He made it work. He made Stardust work. He was stuck in a card, but he committed to it. And this is a wonderful trait from the Rhodes family, period. It's like, okay, you're going to stick this on me. I'm going to commit to it. I'm going to sell every bit of this. I'm going to make them want to see me, or I'm going to make them want to see me get punched in the face. And it worked. The American Nightmare, his heel runs in Japan, and ROH, his babyface runs leading into the Double or Nothing match. And here we go with the comment I want to get to. Double or Nothing was Jamal's first time in Vegas. And when Cody said, I need my older brother at the end of that match, he almost started crying. That was amazing. I remember watching that. There we go. Jamal chiming in. Stephanie's idea of the Stardust gimmick. Well, we're going to get into the McMahon family here just down the road and a little further into it. But yeah, Stephanie, nobody has perfect ideas. They're not 100% across the board, but Cody turned around and shoved it straight up their asses and is now back in the company exactly where he wanted to be. He went out, did what he wanted to do. There was a lot of butthurt fans in AEW when he was doing outside projects and not there that much. And then there was butthurt fans when he left, and there was butthurt fans when he showed up in WWE going, oh, why is this guy here? And he just family tradition. He made it work. Is he the top guy in the company right now? Arguable. I'm not 100% convinced he's the guy, but he's definitely
babyface for sure.
He's definitely a guy that you can put up there, and the only way you get to be the guy is you stay a guy long enough. True. You can be a guy at the top of the card for a little while. Ask Jake Hager. But to remain at the top of the card, maybe ask Randy Orton as our legacies. Anything else on the Rhodes family, boys?
Pretty much. I think we've pretty much said it all.
All right. Well, while we're down in Texas, let's talk about the most famous Texas wrestling family. Started with Fritz, and we went to he had 4 boys. I think he had 5 boys. Maybe, is it 6? I don't remember. I know the movie left one of the brothers out, so I think it was 5 boys. All professional wrestlers. Not a good story. All extremely talented. What are your Von Erich thoughts, guys? Ken?
I watched World Class a little bit, so I'm not as well versed on the Von Erichs. I mean, and that was also back in the day of the magazines. So, I was always intrigued by them. Watching World Class, I think I started watching after David had passed.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know much about David. Kevin, I've seen wrestle, super talented, great wrestler. I always, I know Kerry, I guess, was the heartthrob of the bunch. Mm-hmm. He was the one all the women liked. He kind of stood out to me because, he seemed like very charismatic to me. He a lot of smiles, a lot of, all the girls liked him. So, he was that prototypical wrestler that girls wanted to.
Uh-oh.
Sorry about that. My phone rang. Girls want to be with him and guys want to be him type deal. And then the other Von Erichs, I know there was Mike, who was, I think too small.
Yep.
And then, God, I can't remember David. David was the one who had passed away.
Yeah, right? Sorry. Yeah, because it was Jack, David, Chris, Mike.
Yeah, Chris is the one they left out of the movie.
Yes.
Because his story.
Jack, David, Mike, Chris, Carey. Yeah, there was 5.
Kevin.
Right, and then Lance was fake.
Right. The
Yeah.
like adopted
Oh God,
son,
yes.
basically.
Oh wow. Oh, who I believe was supposed to be played by MJF in the movie, but they just cut his scene out, and that's fine because that was like
Yeah.
adding a wacky cousin to a long-running sitcom. That was that was bad.
He was like Brady Bunch. What is that? Cousin Oliver? Was that what his name was
Yeah.
on the Brady?
Yeah.
Or Leonardo DiCaprio for his season of Growing Pains. It's just like, no,
Yeah.
don't do that.
Like, oh. No.
Fake family wrestling very rarely works. Let's just say that.
You know, I'm obviously I'm younger. I'm just under 40, so I didn't see their traditional, but I did see Kerry in WWF at the time. Like I do remember seeing Kerry Von Erich.
Yeah.
And I remember the commentator saying, "Oh, he doesn't have a foot." And I just remember as a kid that stuck with me because I thought it was, because it's wrestling, you don't believe everything they say, but it wasn't until in the 2000s I'm like, oh no, he really didn't have a foot.
Yeah.
Like they weren't just kayfabing me; they weren't just selling me. I didn't realize he had a motorcycle accident and legitimately tried to wrestle. But the fact that he could wrestle, like he legitimately was a one-legged man in an ass kicking contest. Like it always kind of popped me, and it was definitely always the what ifs. And I went down that rabbit hole in the 2000s, hearing their story, and especially now where it's men's mental health awareness, and 3 of them took their own life because they just, whether the pressures of the business or other things, just it's sad. Just like even seeing the movie Iron Claw, like you were just talking about, whether it's sensationalized or not, just at the very end where Kevin's with his 2 sons and he's just like, I'm not a brother anymore. Like that hits you right in the feels. You're like, I can't imagine. But to see Kevin's sons, Marshall and I'm blanking on the name show, but his 2 sons are actually, I think they're signed to Ring of Honor, still wrestling and probably gonna be wrestling at All In Texas. I think that's cool to at least keep that legacy alive because it's definitely one of the most tragic stories in wrestling is their legacy. But I think they really brought a lot. Like Ken said, Texas Tornado. I mean, I remember that, and he was a flash in the pan for WWF. He wasn't there very long, but I still remember because he made an impression.
Yeah, I mean, he came in, I think he was a little over a year, and that run, I think it came to an end and he took his life right afterwards because, I mean, he got popped for drugs a bunch. I mean, he was into some stuff, if you know what I mean. And, I mean, it was the 80s. Everybody and their dog was. You couldn't be a professional athlete. I think my favorite line about that comes from the old JBL and Cole show where JBL would say it was the 80s. You couldn't stop a pitcher from snorting the first baseline. And
we saw Ultimate Warrior.
Yeah.
Watch a Hogan promo. His eyes, look the man in the eyes if you can find his pupils. And you could see that a lot. Sunglasses were not just to protect you from the bright lights and the camera light in front of you. Let's just say that. I don't want to cast any aspersions on anybody that may not have already admitted it, but oh yeah, brother. All right, so we're damn near at an hour here. There's so much more we could talk about. Is there anybody on your mind, Mongo, that we haven't brought up just yet?
I mean, we brought it obviously, but I think Billy Gunn's kids. I think Colton Austin Gunn. They got super over on the cruise, and I know they had a quick little tag team run there. I don't know if they're off TV for storyline or not, but I feel like they have such potential. I know they started out as kind of like enhancement talent and being in the crowd, and then they started working with the Bang Bang Gang, the Bullet Club Gold, whatever you want to call them. I feel like they really found their niche, and I really hope they come back because I think Colton and Austin are phenomenal. And when you see Colton, it reminds me of the Smoking Guns. He looks like his dad from when he was in the Smoking Guns with Bart Gunn.
Yeah.
Like I see that and I'm instantly taken back to like elementary school. I'm like, holy shit, it's the Smoking Guns with those awful mustaches all over again.
Oh my God. I forgot about the mustache area of that and the cap guns. And you know what? They're fun. They were on, I think, 3 cruises.
Yeah.
I want to say 3 cruises, and they were a blast. I mean, they were one of the guys that benefited from Cruise Rub. We've discussed this on other shows. I know it comes up on Cruising with Kayfabe. Cruise Rub is real, man. Like, if you can get over with the Cruise crowd, we are going to talk about you, and we are going to convince everybody that you're amazing.
And we're all around the world, so...
Yeah. And the Gun Boys, they not only were they performing well in the ring, they were taking heat left, right, and center at every comedy show. They were Brad Williams' favorite target for 3 years in a row. You know, and it was, and they're big dudes. Like Colton is just as big as his dad, and I was not too many rooms away from Billy on the cruise he was on. That's a big fucking dude. And let's
Yes,
keep
he
in mind,
is.
this man is looking phenomenal in his 60s. He's 60. What the fuck? Stem cells or whatever he is doing. Yeah, good for you. I'm not even going to judge. I know he's had some hearsay and some issues with things that maybe the WWE didn't want him putting in his body. But wow, if I could look that good when I'm 60, call it a win.
Right.
And yeah, those boys, I don't know what's going on. I know there was an injury at some point. They recently returned to TV, but it seemed like a flash in the pan. Like, was it the Hurt Business they came out on?
Yeah, then they lost, but
Yeah.
then there was a weird promo where the Hurt Syndicate was like, Private Party beat him, the Gun Club beat him. So it's almost everyone they've beaten off TV. So I don't know if they're purposely off TV to have some storyline where eventually the Hurt Syndicate's like has to face everyone they've beaten in the big clusterfuck where they lose the title. I'm just going to be the optimist on that one because I feel like why have them off TV unless they're waiting for Juice to come back and do the whole faction. Their money, they need to be on TV. That's what I'm going to say. Whether they're in NXT or whether they're on AEW, they should be on TV somewhere because their star has so much potential. Just their personalities, their charisma. Can't say that word.
Yeah, they can go in the ring and they can talk. So
Yeah,
they got
you know what?
they got it all.
I like the NXT idea. Like, and I'm for them getting paid. It's all wrestling. I don't care what
Right?
what portion of the alphabet your paycheck has on you. But can we just take a moment to think? The Gun Boys walk in full gear, walking through the backstage. We're here for a match, and they run smack into Shawn Michaels, who looks at their gear up and down because their gear is 90s Shawn Michael.
Yep,
that's what it is. It was pre-back injury Shawn Michael gear. And it's fantastic, and I'm here for it. But just to see that little reaction of just them walking through and Shawn stop in front of Shawn, Shawn gives him the up and down and goes, I like it.
Yeah, that'd be
along those lines. And seems familiar. I'm here for it. Ken, what about you? Anybody we haven't touched on that's on the top of your mind?
For the most part, I mean, pretty much we've hit on most. I mean, there's some that maybe the dad didn't have such a great wrestling career, but the kid did a little bit more. Carmella was another one that I thought of too, because her dad was one of the Beverly brothers, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
And I know she's not really doing anything now, but for a while she was a pretty hot item.
I mean, Corey Graves is a fan. I know that.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I guess last but not least, we do have one that I can't believe I'll just follow. I just thought about it. Four letters, one word. Yeet. The Usos.
Oh yeah. That's true.
There's a whole show on that Samoan dynasty.
Right.
I mean, Jacob Fatu's Samu's son. I mean, Rikishi has three of his sons.
Tongaloa,
there.
Hukuleo.
Yeah, and let's just say the Samoan DNA is quite strong through there. I mean, we have the sons of Haku. Is the baddest man in professional wrestling. There are very few things all wrestling fans agree on. One is Bobby Heenan is the greatest manager of all time, and two is Haku is the toughest man that ever walked into that fucking business.
Yeah.
And it's not even a close. Everything else is tied for second, and that's saying something when you start running the list of badasses and when you start running the list of management. I mean, Randy Orton had a better career than his dad or his grandfather did. I mean, we haven't really touched on Randy, but bell to bell, that man's still going too. I mean, he's 20 years deep plus.
Yeah. Actually, one other one just came to mind.
Yeah.
Randy Savage and Lanny Poffo. They're brothers, and their dad was a wrestler too.
That's true. Angelo Poffo. Yeah, as Jamal's saying, the Samoan dynasty is definitely a whole show. We cannot run that tree because, like I said earlier at the best, when we talk about The Rock, they're a branch on that tree. They're a little further out of the main trunk, but I mean, come on. But yeah, that Savage, his dad was, I believe, the term popularized by a Louisville resident as an outlaw mud show. promoter. He was not really in the NWA circle. He just ran shows wherever, and Randy and Lanny. I mean,
and I just thought of one more to end
go
on.
for it.
So you were talking about the Nickelodeon NXT color scheme, but I want to talk about one person who came through that Techno multicolor that is going to be a star and has already proven. Braun Breaker, Rick Steiner's son.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's going to be something. I mean, his spear,
it's terrifying.
But behind Rhino, like to me, Rhino's gore is going to be like one of the best spears in the business. Yeah. But Braun Breaker's probably got the best spear of any current like mainstream star, because when he just hit Carlito or El Grande Americano recently at Money in the Bank, you're just like, even though they're saying like Jesus Christ, they folded him in half, and just his personality, and when he is, I want to see Braun Breaker hurt people. He makes me tune in because I want to see him just spear someone out of their fucking boots. So yeah, he's doing his job.
It's like 97, 98 Goldberg before we realized that Goldberg was garbage. Except for I'm not just saying that because of my hat. But it looks like he's murdering guys. Now, a lot of guys have said, well, it looked like he was murdering us because Goldberg was murdering us. I haven't really heard too much about how it feels to take a Braun Breaker spear. All I know is Mongo is 100% correct. That is terrifying. The speed of this man. And I know they love saying it every time he's in the ring, but to get up to that amount of speed in such a short distance, oh my God. I mean, I wish they'd stop spearing people.
He knows how to hit you.
Yeah. Like, I just kind of want to, like, is he actually murdering dudes out there? Or are they like, it looks like he's murdering us? Because we've heard of that before. And it could be a thing like, JBL's clothesline from hell. And people, you'd ask 10 different people, and 5 of them are going to say he liked me, I didn't feel a thing. And 5 others are going to say, yeah, he knocked my head into the 3rd row.
I just want to see Dolph Ziggler come back and take a spear just with his selling. I just want to see go to TNA for one night, Braun Breaker spear Nick Nemeth one more time just to see him get flipped ass over tea kettle.
Right? I mean, that's yeah. I mean, you want somebody to sell, you get Nick Nemeth. There's a show on him coming too, because we're gonna have. I'm gonna start doing shows just breaking down a guy's sort of career here, but also the rumor abound that Scott Steiner's son, when he's done with football, may be joining him. So Steiner Brothers 2.0. I mean, you don't ever want to put, the only time you put new in front of a tag team name is if it's followed by Age Outlaws. That's the only one that's ever worked with the word new in there. Well, Day works as well, I guess. I'm no props.
Could be the Breaker Brothers. Keep that tradition, and that could be their whole gimmick. We're gonna break you, it writes itself.
Sure.
Scott Steiner's son looks like him too. It's terrifying.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, let's be honest here. The Steiner brothers have a whole backstage. Now their antics wouldn't fly these days, but he's in the same class
as Jacob Henry, Mark Henry's son, who we saw on the cruise, who is a big boy, and not as big as in fat. He is big as in he could bench press a car.
Yeah, yep. I mean, that's. And that's interesting. I think we still have a lot of legacies yet to come. We have guys like Steiner's son. Now, I'm hoping that Braun Breaker can step far enough out into his own where we can put his name back to Steiner, because I think the Breaker name is stupid.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think it's just like, okay, I get it. You want to step away from that, but doesn't take a lot of wrestling knowledge to go, oh, that's a fucking Steiner.
He looks like
sounds like his uncle, and he looks like a groomed version of his dad. I mean, there's no way to say it, but I mean, he opens his mouth and it's Scott. The second you hear his voice,
especially he does his own little Steiner math there, and I was like that Leonardo DiCaprio meme.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly it. And having the next generation, Mark Henry's, Jacob Henry coming up, that excites me. The possibility of a new Steiner brothers coming up, that excites me. I think we hear about these people going through training and they want to do it, and we're looking at the as we said earlier, are you gonna hit that same level? Are you going to step out and be a Randy Orton? Are you going to get in there and discover it's not for you, like a David Flair or a Scott Putski? Or are you going to exceed everything like a Randy Orton and a Rock? I mean,
And you still
we haven't
got
even.
Dusty's grandkids, Wyatt Rhodes and his brother.
Mhm.
They're training right now, so you still have another generation of Rhodes coming.
Those are Teal's kids, are they not?
Yes.
Yeah, and that's interesting too, because I haven't seen that little reality show they did a while back, but apparently Teal is a force to be reckoned with.
I'll just say this: I wouldn't want to be on her bad side just from the clips I saw on social media. I didn't see the show either. Emily did, but I saw clips on social media, and that's one of those things that'd be like, "Yes, ma'am. Yep, nope, you're right. I'm gonna go fuck myself over here."
Yeah,
and two other current kids that are involved in wrestling. Really quick, you do have The Rock's daughter.
Oh yeah, Eva.
Yeah,
Pebble.
that is an excellent pull. So fourth generation. Now, when she had shown up, I mean, much like Maya Lesnar, it not hard to see where her parentage was.
Yes,
but didn't the in-ring didn't really work out well for her, and I'm not watching NXT enough to really get an idea of how the talking head managerial character role is going for her. Anybody fill me in? You guys watch, because I mean that's a hell of a legacy. I think her job's fairly secure, so she's gonna have plenty of time to figure it out unless she wants to leave. But yeah.
And then also Santino's daughter, Ariana Grace.
Oh yeah, Miss NXT.
And they're doing an excellent job of, sometimes when they want to hide these things, they can hide them. Because I believe Bull Buchanan's son is also in NXT.
I think so. I don't know what his name is, but yes, you're right.
Yeah, he was a tag team guy there. I wasn't. Yeah,
you got William Regal's kid also in NXT.
Oh yeah, Charlie Dempsey.
And that's it. Doing it again. You look at him, you're like, you look familiar, and then you see him next to Mr. Regal, and you're like, okay, yep, yeah, that's the one. And that's fantastic. When they want to hide these things, they can. But I mean, there's just cases that you can't hide the lineage. A story I heard years ago, and I think it was on Talk Is Jericho, talking to the Gunn brothers, where Colton was, didn't want to be in wrestling. He was out in California. He was working construction. He decided to, give it a shot, showed up to a school. I want to say Rikishi's, but I'm not 100% sure. He just sort of said, I don't want anybody to know who my dad is, except he's like, yeah, that lasted about 10 seconds because I walked in. Everybody's like, oh, you're definitely Billy Gunn's kid. And it's unfortunate. I'm curious to see if Maya Lesnar gets the bug as well. I know she's just won an NCAA. I can't remember if she won something or set a record or both.
Both.
Yeah, but I mean, she would be a force, much like your Chynas, your Beth Phoenixes, your Raquel Rodriguez sort of character is just an absolute force, like her dad.
God
and
bless
Brock
the man
does have
when he tries to date her. That's all I have to say. Imagine going home to dad like, "Oh, hi, sir."
Yeah.
I think if you got to the point of you're going home to dad, you're like, yeah, you're fine, but I have to deal with this voluntarily. I think Brock has probably done a good enough job. He's like, I don't got to do shit. If you piss her off, you're gonna have to deal with her. I ain't gonna do nothing to you. You got your own problems. I mean, I got I got an attitude problem, nicely cultivated in both of my kids. I feel bad for the guys that piss them. I'm like, I ain't got to do shit to you, but help hide the body. You're going to answer that one over there first. And I think that's probably a case with Maya. It's like, what are you going to do? Don't make me leave the farm. Are you kidding me? She's just going to show up with you in the trunk. And then you're just going to live here permanently. But I think that we always get this crop of so-and-so is training, so-and-so is interested. And I love seeing how it turns out. Like Randy Orton did not look like it was going to turn out for him. I mean, he had the same sort of entrance as your John Cena and
the worst finish ever, the overdrive.
Everybody tries to get that over and it never works.
I think
So
MVP's
that
the
was-
only one who somehow made it work because of everything else he did with the ball in and everything. Yeah, the overdrive is a terrible finisher.
Yeah, Jamal agrees. If Lesnar's daughter gets into the wrestling bug, it'll be interesting. Yeah, absolutely, guaranteed stud. Shot put does. Jim Neidhart started in shot put, so and I would bet you, Maya the Anvil Lesnar would be interesting. Let's see her throw some things. Because God knows, Dad has made a living throwing people around, whether they wanted to or not.
My last quick note, I promise. But you want
Yeah,
my
no,
favorite,
go right ahead. I'm good.
My favorite Lesnar story of all time is Mark Marrow did an interview years back, and he said something along the lines of, when he found out Sable was cheating, I remember thinking, when I found out who this guy is, I'm going to beat the tar out of him. And then I found out it was Brock Lesnar, and I gave forgiveness a whole new meaning.
Yeah. I love that story. I've heard him tell it on a few podcasts, and it's always the exact same. So it's not any wrestler embellishment. And Mark Mauer's a bad motherfucker. You see him his Johnny B. Bad days, and you don't quite know. He never really hit. He leaned into his boxing character in the ring, but he was a bad dude. He was Mr. Fuck You Up, Steal Your Girl for a long time, and he was like, "Oh yeah, no, that's cool. Whatever y'all need to do, yeah, I'm just gonna go over here. Paperwork, yeah, absolutely. Sign whatever paperwork you need. Yeah, and that's wrestling is wild, man. There is." Yeah, we have so much. I mean, we've barely touched on the McMahon children, but there is one other son of a promoter that is still going that I want to touch on and give credit to, because nobody ever said Jeff Jarrett is my favorite wrestler until a couple years ago, when a lot of the stuff came out. It's like, oh, Jeff Jarrett's this. He's Vince Russo's boy. He's fucking annoying. Well, he was fucking annoying because he was paid to be fucking annoying. Jeff Jarrett was a fast forward button on two legs for so many people. And then if you haven't listened to his podcast because you're just like, oh, Jesus Christ, it's Jeff Jarrett, go listen to it. He is a fascinating person to talk to. His grandmother was a promoter. His dad was a wrestler and a promoter. He, obviously, his career speaks for itself. I mean, he was basically blackballed by the industry on national television by Vince McMahon at the end of WCW. So he turned around and went, fuck it, I'll start my own. That company is still going.
Yeah, TNA.
TNA is still around. They're not at their peak. And, you listen to his podcast, he gets the criticism all the time because Conrad doesn't let it go. Conrad will read the stuff and go, what do you say about this criticism that you were always making yourself the champion? He's like, we didn't have the money to lock these guys in. We weren't sure they were going to show up every week. The only guy that was able to confirm they were showing up every week was me. I can't have my title disappear into the ether.
Especially when
can't
there
have
was
him
the
go.
NWA title. He didn't want to piss off the NWA. Like he's not about to like sever that tie.
Yeah, and I mean, eventually he did, but I mean, it's like I was the only one guaranteed to show up every week. I mean, Ron Killings won the title. Ken Shamrock was in the title picture. You had your AJ Styles. You had those at the beginning of TNA. The reason he kept getting the title is because they couldn't lock guys in. They didn't have the money. They were making more money in Japan. They were getting offers from WWE. Let's not forget, CM Punk had a run in the early days there until he got his NXT ECW thing. I mean, it was a who's who. And that promotion, it's seen better days, clearly. But when you look at it, Hogan, Sting, Angle, Christian, Rhino, Booker T, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, Christopher Daniels, the list of guys that went through TNA under Jeff Jarrett, phenomenal. Great run because Kurt Angle, absolutely. Kurt Angle, I mean, Kurt was going through it at the time, but I mean, it's the wrestling industry. You have a whole locker room full of guys, but TNA was a
Hall of Fame run in TNA and a Hall of Fame run in WWE.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you look at that and it's changed hands. I mean, there was shenanigans with Dixie. There was money problems. They got screwed by one of their major investors right off the bat. They had a guy internally that was lying about numbers, so they were overspending. And when you hear all this stuff, and Jeff's like, I had to keep going. What else am I going to do? He did get his redemption arc in the WCW for a while, but now he's out there and he's doing his last year. I would like to see a little more on Jarrett's last year on AEW TV. last year. But I mean, he's out there and he's absolutely killing it. Absolutely killing it. And I believe he's in charge of live events or something like that as well. He's got his office job. He's got the in-ring mind. He's got the backstage mind. He's got the whole package, really. I mean, that's a career that cannot be denied, and I cannot stress it enough. I mean, I haven't listened in a while, but check his podcast out. Find an episode or two and just really listen to the man, because he's just like, yeah. And then he was involved in one of the more notorious love triangles in the early 2000s because he married Kurt Angle's ex-wife. And you think it's like, oh, well, it's Jeff Jarrett and this, and he was kind of you talk about his in-ring work, and it's like, where's his bad match? Show me a bad Jeff Jarrett match. They don't really exist. He may not have been the guy that. But what's that?
I said they may be overbooked shenanigans, but
well, yeah. But I mean, bell to bell. I mean, you can't just say he phoned it in or anything like that, because I mean, he was holding his own with Scott Hall and Shawn Michaels in the mid '90s, and he was holding his own with Kurt Angle and AJ Styles in the early 2000s, 2010s. Like, it's Jarrett's a huge success story, and he gets overlooked because he was so fucking good at his job. So good at his job. That tag team with Owen Hart was a highlight of what I consider one of the worst years in wrestling, 1999.
No, and I think too, the fact that he couldn't be a babyface. I don't think he ever had it in him to be a babyface because he did so well as a heel. So I think that's why people don't like him. Is when was he really a true babyface in wrestling? Like, when was he really, besides his Double J when he first started in the 90s, when he was the country singer, like, when was he really that you love me, everyone loves me? No, it was, I'm the asshole. You don't want to see me fine. Slap nuts. I'm going to hit you with a guitar. I'm going to throw a kitchen sink at you. Like, it's just everything about him was always, I'm an asshole. You don't want to see. He was Go Away Heat before Go Away Heat was a term.
Ain't I great?
Ain't I? J-E
double F J-A double R-E double T.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to deny. Like, even when he did try his babyfaces run in, because I mean, he never got, I don't think he had one babyface run in WWE. They never even looked into it. But when he was doing it for his own company and he would try to be the babyface, you're doing that Ric Flair thing. You're like, yeah, you're a babyface today. But what's your angle? What is your
Jamal?
Jamal, I need more Karen Jarrett on my TV. Absolutely. You know, and there's so many more that we can talk about. I am not super familiar with Nick Wayne's dad, but, you know, he's another guy that is just out there absolutely killing it. And, you know, along Jamal's line, Mama Wayne, yeah, please. She looks like she needs a vacation. That's all I'm going to say about that. You know, you guys know what I mean when I say that, and most people watching this
my rage. She still went home with Kristen Cage.
Well.
Yeah, Christian. That's a tough role that he's been put in. Really, you just go out, be an asshole, and hang out with Shayna Wayne. Like, what can we do? All right. I mean, we're still going. We're gonna. Any other thoughts out here? I mean, Randy Orton, I mean, what can you say about him? That's a legacy talent. I think this is one of those things where Bob Orton Sr., great career. Bob Orton Jr., great career. And they kind of stacked. And then Randy Orton, all-time great. You can't argue with that. I mean, he is responsible for taking a move and turning it into a pop culture icon. I know DDP kind of gifted it to him, but you know, you see RKOs all over the place. You throw it into TikTok, you're seeing it in pools, you're seeing it, you know, in grocery stores, on football fields. And any other things you want to go on? Let's go a little OT on this. We'll go one more fall to a finish, get another 15 minutes out of this, and just wrap it up at the 90-minute mark. Anybody else that we've touched on or haven't really gotten into, boys?
I feel like we've hit it. Like, obviously we can't hit the Annoy legacy, but I think another what if. Maybe you said Scott Hall. His son Cody never really got to break in anywhere else besides Japan.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember talking to Scott on Cruise 2 about Cody. And one of the things he said to me, I'll never forget, he goes, he just works too stiff and people are afraid of him. And I told him maybe he's got to pull some punches and he's going to do what he can. But, you know, I can't control how he works. And he was proud of his son. He wasn't like, oh, I'm a bit. I think he went to New Japan. He worked a style. He has that like Vader like rep where it's just people don't want to get in the ring with him because they don't want to get, the black guy. They don't want to get the potato. And I think that kind of what stopped him from really. And then obviously some other issues after his father passed, I think stopped him. But he was definitely a what if, because Cody had the look and he had the talent to really shine if he got a chance.
Yeah, I mean, and then you mentioned Vader as well. I believe his kid was at football and gave it a try in Japan as well. So I mean, that's another. I mean, there's ones that, like you said, that Cody Hall, not ready for North America.
Roddy Piper's daughter, I think, is wrestling too.
Oh, Teal, that's right. Yeah, Teal Piper.
Yeah,
that's right. I mean, that's an interesting one unto itself. The daughter of Roddy Piper. I mean, I'd like to see what happened there myself. I knew she was trying. I know his son was doing Colt, I believe his name was doing some MMA and looking at it. I don't think he got too much further into it. I'd have to do a little more research than I'm prepared to do at this point in the show. But there's so many could have beens that sort of give it a try, and it's a shame. And as far as the Scott Hall thing or the Cody Hall thing goes, it just you're one of the Scott for all of his ups and downs was much like Jake Roberts. Nobody ever took away the fact that he had one of the most brilliant minds for the business. That being said, having a dad that has a brilliant mind for hockey, my brother didn't listen to him all that often either. So sometimes it's hard passing this knowledge down because sure, Dad, whatever. I mean, we all have kids. I mean, I could tell you, I was talking last night about an issue my daughter had looking for a car. Did you listen to a fucking word I had to say? No. Would she come to me asking questions? Absolutely. I mean, Josh, you got Cam, and he's much younger than Ken and I's kids, but does he listen to everything you say?
No. I'd be lying if I said so.
Yeah, and sometimes you just need somebody other than Dad. I mean, Ken, you're sitting there nodding along. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Correct?
Oh yeah, 100%. We talk from experience, and you'd think that we didn't know our ass from our elbow because try to keep them from the mistakes we made, and they turn around and just make the same mistakes. And our advice goes in one ear and out the other, and I mean, it's what it is.
Yeah,
but then,
sometimes
but then
in the light socket.
a couple months later, you get the, you were right.
Yeah, and that's a good feeling.
I know.
You sort of sit there and your brain like
pulls the old Han Solo. I know.
What have you learned?
Exactly.
It's like you realize I screwed this up before. I put the penny in the light socket. I thought I would stick the landing. You see this scar? Yeah. And it's unfortunate. Some of these guys just maybe they need to not be there. Like look at Dom. Dom did not train in Southern California in lucha with Ray. Dom's primarily schooling. He went up to Calgary and trained with Lance Storm. Would Dom be where he is now if he had stuck with Ray? Maybe.
I think some of the more, I don't want to say they're not smart if they do, but I think some of the more wise decisions is when they do go around the world and travel and train at different places. So it's not just one style you're learning. Because I think that's what hinders a lot of talent is if you only learn the WWE style, you're going to have a hard time on the indies or in an AEW or in a New Japan. If you only learn the New Japan style, you're going to have a hard time in other places. So you kind of have to learn from the styles and kind of almost be a melting pot of how you want to work, and learning each style is different. Like I take someone like Carlito, for example. I can't believe we forgot him when we talk about fathers and sons.
Right.
You have Puerto Rico wrestling, which is a whole different animal in itself, and you have Carlito, was it Primo and Epico?
Yeah,
Yes.
Primo and Epico.
So you had them. They never really, their style never really meshed with the WB, but their character work did. But if you watch some of their videos, like I know he used to be really good on Instagram posting with his matches. The way he works in Puerto Rico for, I think it's WWC, was completely different than the way he works in WB. I mean, I think when his recent return, he had like 5 matches, but we all know who Carlito is. So I think he did such a good job of, okay, well, WB's not going to let me wrestle the way I want, so I'm going to really lean into my character, really lean into this gimmick. And I think he really did a good job of learning from his travels and his time in and outside of WB to kind of be that character, but he can work. And I've seen him on the indies, and I've seen, I remember Emily saying, he's like, that's Carlito. I've never seen him wrestle like that. I'm like, they've never let him wrestle like that.
Yep. And, you know, I was talking with Em on our last show about R-Truth, and don't even get me started on that. But one of the things I was saying was WWE has value when you want to work in front of a camera. If you want, like, you can go and learn the lucha, you can go learn the Japanese style, you can go to Europe and do the catch can training, you can go up to Calgary, you can go down to North Carolina, or you can go to the Dudley School, and wherever you want to learn. But when you want to learn to be able to do this properly on TV, the only place to go is NXT. It is undisputed that the WWE is able to teach you TV style, work for the camera presentation. And that is a value that I think is not underrated. You can go back. Big Show is Paul White has been very vocal saying he was told by Hulk Hogan, you need to go up to New York and get that experience because they will be able to teach you how to work for TV.
You know, if you think about it, much like Major League Baseball, where they have single A, double A, triple A, and then, you know, you get to the Big Show, pardon the pun, you know, the MLB. Right now with WWE, you have Evolve and then NXT. And then, you know, you can get, you know, either to, you know, and now with their partnership with TNA, I mean, you know, you can, you know, when you're with NXT, you can, you know, wrestle TNA wrestlers, which is, you know, it's a step up above the guys that are in NXT. And then you got your, you know, your Raw and your SmackDown. So you almost have like a single A, you know, or a double A, triple A, and then
literally triple A. Let's not forget that's now a WWE brand.
Yes, and they have
triple A wrestling. So they have the ability to send you to Mexico and go, you need to learn this. Go down here,
right?
And you still get, you know, I don't know what kind of, because if to me anybody partnering in WWE, the biggest thing they get not only is, you know, the machine behind you in marketing, but you can have people come down and teach you TV production. You can have guys come down and teach some of these guys how to work for a camera. And that the trade-off being then you now have WWE guys that are going down there and learning how to work lucha. I mean, they're teasing it with Chad Gable, obviously. You know, he's trying to figure out how to work against luchadors, and you know, there's this wonderful new luchador that's come in that hopefully Chad learns a lot from, El Grande Americano, who should be sponsored by Starbucks if you ask me. But that trade-off there, this
I'm
next
waiting for them to have a match.
Right?
I heard Julius Creed under the mask. You could do it.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, I heard.
You know, eventually they'll have somebody that's got the similar body type and put him under a mask and try to debunk the whole thing. But, which will be fun. It'll be great.
Run back that Blue Blazer deal.
Exactly.
They would switch between Jeff Jarrett and Owen Hart, and I think one day it was, I want to say Coco Beware. There was definitely one day where
no, they definitely did.
Incorrect.
They definitely tried to cover the mouth more than they should have. We'll just say that.
Yeah, they definitely did. But you know what? Maybe I heard they're aiming for a tag team match at SummerSlam with American Maids Chad Gable and El Grande Americano versus Sami Zayn and El Generico. So hopefully they can get all that signed. I know Generico's been a bit hard to pin down lately. He's happy in his semi-retirement, but I hear he's still out there. So that's something to look forward to.
Funny you mentioned AAA because the perfect person to buy them was WB. And I know it's probably gonna be a hot, unpopular opinion here, but I looked into Lucha a few years ago because I was really curious, like, what was the difference between CMLL and AAA? I didn't know, I'm a forward. I didn't really know the difference. So there's a really good documentary on there that kind of talks about in the 90s why AAA split. I won't go into the whole details. Obviously, it's like an hour long thing, but long story short, AAA wanted to be more character-based wrestling. CMLL wanted to be more traditional lucha wrestling. So I think WWE recognizing that AAA is basically their style of, like, look at Mr. Iguana, their style of over-the-top characters that wrestle luchador versus traditional luchadors. I think it's perfect. So like you said, they could send a Chad Gable or El Grande Americano down there because the crowd is instantly going to love them because it's the same kind of characters they're already used to seeing. So Ken's point about the farm system is absolutely correct because now they have their own like pipeline to feed in. So they're not just because the NIL thing and the supermodel thing didn't really work. They tried that for a while with Vince and like, listen, we need people who actually have ring experience too. Because if you really look at the next in line, besides like Tiffany Stratton, there's not really too many people they got who weren't wrestlers before that kind of transitioned well. So I think having that NXT or Evolve or the WBID to kind of identify the types of people they want to be that whole package, it's going to help them in the long run. And I know people kind of poo-poo it, but it's wrestling. And I'm excited because then you have AEW partnering with CMLL and Rev Pro and New Japan. And they kind of each develop their own, like, not feeder systems, but like ways they can kind of get people who they want in their system. And it's just going to benefit us in the long run.
Yeah. As far as bell to bell goes. And you know what, while we're talking lucha, I had a spell where I was like, oh Jesus, I just need a break from the wrestling. So I didn't realize that Worlds Collide wasn't on the network or on a TV channel. It was on YouTube. So I went back and I watched that. And when you look at some of the names on this card, you're absolutely right. Psycho Clown, definitely a gimmick heavy character. Great wrestler. First time I'd ever seen him work. I mean, Jeff Jarrett spoke very highly of him on his podcast about a year ago. But when you run down some of the names on the card, I mean, let's not forget Penta is Pentagon Jr. He's got a legacy, which means
him and
Phoenix
Octagon. If you look at
Octagon
the whole thing,
Jr., my personal favorite, Vikingo is El Hijo de Vikingo. He's a legacy.
Yes.
And my personal favorite one, the name that drives me nuts as much as it makes me giggle, El Hijo de Dr. Wagner Jr. So he's the third. He's the son of Dr. Wagner Jr. That's three. So I mean, they have a huge legacy down there. Rey Mysterio is not Rey Mysterio. Rey Mysterio is Rey Mysterio Jr.
Yes,
that's an uncle thing. So like the legacy down there. I mean, we can go on this. I mean, we'll get into AAA down the line as we talk about this.
So
too,
they have 4 Tiger Masks at this point.
Oh, little known fact. I might be wrong about this, but I thought that the guy who is Psycho Clown is American and is also Corey Graves' brother.
I'll look that. But
that's
Sam Adonis.
Sam Adonis. You know what? I am actually just going to look that up right now because I am very curious about
curiosity, Ken.
He is the son of luchador Jose Alvarado Neves.
Maybe I'm wrong then.
But no, you're right. I mean, Corey Graves' brother Sam Adonis is down there, and he's doing some work with Talking Lucha. I can't remember the name of his podcast, but he's in the Conrad Thompson network as well, so you can check that out. I think we got a lot of meat on the bone for some more talking wrestling parentage, family trees, and brother combos. Because I mean, boy, do we have a lot of brother combos. Some real, some maybe a bit of a work. I don't want to say the Dudley boys, but maybe they aren't actually related. I don't know if Mongo's frozen on the screen or he's shocked. And I haven't seen the DNA test, but I heard the Undertaker and Kane aren't related either, which I don't want to.
I heard the Dudley boys. I heard the Dudley boys are just as much brothers as the full-blooded Italians were Italian.
Whoa! Now we're going too far, Ken. We're going too.
I don't know about that. Are you saying that ECW was working us?
I don't know.
Tracy
I think
Smothers, come on.
Smotherici. That was the real last name. They shortened it. You know, immigration changed the name when they were coming into the U.S.
Oh, okay, it's like one of them Hollywood things. It's like, oh no,
Next, he's gonna
that's
tell me
too ethnic
Santino
for
Marello
us.
is not Italian. He's a French Canadian or something.
Yeah.
You can keep him. Anyways, thank you guys. Go enjoy the rest of your Father's Day. Thank you for hanging out, talking fathers and children in professional wrestling. I absolutely love doing this. I'm going to keep trying to get myself back on track and get some more topics going. I really appreciate it. Enjoy your days, ladies and gentlemen. Don't forget to not only like at the In Studios page so you can see these live, and like the Cheap Seat booking page as well. Give you a little help there, and go and like Cruising with Kayfabe. Fascinating stuff, especially if you like doing prediction shows. They do a wonderful AEW pay-per-view prediction shows pretty much every time, featuring not just Mongo, but recent first-time guests Emily, his wonderful Better Three Quarters, and longtime guest, multiple returning guests on both shows. Who, I mean, honestly, the guy's a professional podcast guest, Jeff, who is. Also got some great takes, and his lovely Better Three Quarters, Rachel. So check us all out. Throw us some likes, throw us some shares. We'll be back. Jamal is Kane and Undertaker, brother. I believe Jamal. Jamal has never lied to me.
No, the mayor wouldn't lie to us.
No,
right.
Not at all. That's fantastic. And I want to thank everybody for showing up. Jamal and Robert, especially for jumping in the comments as well. It really adds something to the show. Until then, enjoy your Father's Day. And remember, it's not where you're from. It's not who you are. It doesn't matter what version of the alphabet soup you like. It's all pro wrestling.